Good evening and welcome to our expert meetups with our Frollo community. And our expert meetup this evening is Carl, and he's a brain recovery coach. And he's going to talk to us tonight about 5 key habits to a healthy brain. Just before we start and I hand over to Carl, I have got the chat group open. So Carl's got a bit of a presentation, and then any questions, you can pop them in the chat. And then there will be time afterwards that Carl will do some Q&A with us as well. So thank you ever so much. I'll mute myself now, Carl, and I'll hand over to you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Now, yes, 5 key health habits to a healthy brain. That's what I'm here to talk to you about today. And following on from the presentation I did with you a couple of months ago, talking around kind of past and post relationships, I believe that's on the YouTube channel that Susanna mentioned earlier. So that obviously you can go back and look at that if you missed it the first time round. Let's just crack on, shall we? For those of you that don't know who I am or weren't able to come to the first presentation, basically, long story short is that in 2019, I collapsed at home, fractured my skull and had a brain hemorrhage. Not a particularly pleasant thing to have. But following a kind of, I say, extensive recovery, it took me quite a while to get to the point of recovering. I decided to learn more about the brain because it kind of fascinated me as to why so many people struggled and there wasn't a lot of help for it out there. Since then, I've done courses on neuroplasticity and neuro-linguistic programming, and that's what obviously I wanted to share information with you about today to hopefully help all those in the kind of single community to really kind of grasp how it is that we can keep our brain healthy for ourselves and for our little ones. And alongside that, I've also been a part of the Frollo community for the last 3-4 years myself, and being a single parent for a large amount of time, have a real appreciation for obviously how having a healthy brain can make life that much easier, let's say. Oh, right, yes. You confused me with your message there, Susanna. I thought it was somebody already asking a question. I wanted to make sure I could be heard. So yes, that's who I am.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Sorry, Carl.
That's
I just
right.
put that up because I always like to make sure people are prompted. I promise I won't interfere at all.
That's fine. Don't you worry. Yes, the picture's not the most flattering. As you can probably guess, the picture on the left is me in the midst of brain fog, fatigue, and probably all the things that we can probably relate to fresh after having a newborn baby, as to how we feel with our sleepless nights and everything else going along. So yeah, that's kind of how it was pretty much all day, every day, unfortunately. To me, then running a ultra marathon earlier this year. So obviously quite a big step through, and I won't go too much into how I recovered through that because hopefully as I go through, you'll probably gather most of that anyway. So let's go on to our next page. How does the brain form connections? Now, again, I did mention this on the previous presentation, but as I say, because possibly some of you there are new to this, I just wanted to kind of recap over that because for those that don't know, it makes sense then when we're going through the rest of the presentation what it is I'm talking about. So how does the brain form connections? From the moment we are into this world, and obviously even before we're into this world, whilst we're resting in our mother's bellies, connections start to form within our brain. Now, what are connections? They are neural networks that form within our brain that connect into synapses, lots of scientific words like that don't really matter. But there's basically a whole bunch of wires in our head. And we have millions and billions of them. But from the second we are conceived to the very last day, we are forming new connections. Okay, and that's learning everything from our ABCs, how we walk, how we talk, how we see the letter A, how we spell the letter A, how we write it in a sentence, all has its own individual connection. Now, as most of you can probably appreciate, our brain learns the most, generally speaking. It's most plastic, so we talk about neuroplasticity, that's the molding of the brain, during our years, our child years. And why is that? Because we've got to learn everything new. So I often joke, well, not joke about it, but I'm sure we've probably all joked about it with our children when they come home from their 6-hour day at school and they've had their 2 breaks and their nice hour-long lunch break, and they're absolutely exhausted from all the learning they've been doing. And we fire the line back at them: wait until you're in a full-time job working 12-hour days, then you'll know what hard work is. So why is it so different? Why are they tired at that point, and then we can somehow manage a 12-hour day later on? Well, the difference is they're still in the learning phase. Their brain is having to work so much more on a daily basis to learn all the new things. So whether it's teachers, parents, TV, social media influences, and everything that goes along with that, that is all feeding information into the brain, forming connections all over the place, and basically deciding who they're going to be. That dictates that every message that we pass on to our children effectively forms a connection within their brain. And once those connections are, let's say they're regular behaviors. So I don't know, let's say we always say, brush your teeth before you go to bed. Hopefully within 21 days of doing it every day, that forms a habit in your brain. It then becomes an unconscious part of your brain, and effectively you would just subconsciously do it without even really knowing it. That means your brain's not really having to work to figure out how to do things. The subconscious is 95% of your brain. The conscious part of your brain is 5% of your brain. So really, you're only really having to think about 5% of the stuff that you need to do, hopefully on a daily basis. The rest of the stuff is kind of just muscle memory, as we say. Now, with my injury, I lost a load of connections. That's how it kind of worked. And me, through exercise and a few other things, brought those connections back in. But the point of this presentation is to talk to you about key habits to keep that healthy brain. And yes, it's massively important for ourselves as single parents. It's massively important to keep our brain healthy. Why? So that we can be at our best for our jobs, our best for our kids. Obviously, at our best just to cope day to day, to figure out the finances, remember what bill we're paying on what day, and everything else in between. And there are some ways of doing that that will give us the best chance of having that. And they're in the same process. It's a fabulous lesson to pass on to our children as well. And really only in the last 18 months of me learning this have I started to try and blend it into kind of using it with my family to try and get these habits into them at an early stage that says, oh yes, learn to do this, learn to put the dishes in the dishwasher. Maybe not the greatest example. I'm sure we can cope without that one. But you get the idea of what I'm saying. So let's crack on to the 5 key habits. Susanna, if I waffle too much, just give me a wave at some point if I'm getting closer to 1:45 or something and I'm still not very far along. The first of the key habits, and it's going to sound slightly scientific as I go through, but I will try and relate it all into our day-to-day of what we deal with. So we're talking about exercise. Now, as I say, I put exercise first because it relates mostly back into how I recovered. So it's the one I've got most personal experience with, really. And what happened is I started my recovery through signing up to run for a charity. And I couldn't run at the time. I could barely walk to the corner shop without getting dizzy. So what I did is I said, oh, I'm going to sign up to doing these 2 miles every day, but actually I'm just going to start with half a mile a day. And if I can walk that, great. And I started at that level. And as I went through the 100 days of the challenge, my brain relearned to do certain things and how to do certain things. It became more confident in doing certain things. And with that, naturally allowed me to recover through the process of less and less symptoms and more confidence. So yeah, how does exercise work? And when I say exercise, you're thinking, Carl, are you talking about spending an hour in the gym running on a treadmill? No, I'm not talking about spending an hour in the gym running on a treadmill. Okay, how does this relate into us as single parents? Whether it's, I don't know what your personal circumstances are. And as I say, by all means, drop a question in and we can discuss it more later at the end. Absolutely, because if you need any ideas, by all means, now or in Frollo or later, you can contact me and I'll quite happily talk about it with you. But it might be that you've got one of the children in the pushchair and you decide to walk to school during the summer months. It might be that you've got stairs at home and you decide with the kids, we're going to walk up and down the stairs 10 times before we eat our dinner. Or don't do it right after you eat your dinner, but before you eat your dinner. It might be that you've got teenagers like I've got, and let's go. I'm throwing out one of the TikTokers here. What's her name? Lauren Jumps or something like that. I think she became a well-known thing in COVID with her skipping in a back garden to music. you know, kids obviously watch all this stuff, they like it, they go, oh yeah, look, oh they're doing the skipping thing. You know what? Let's make skipping fun, or hula hooping, or let's take it right back. Even if you're having an egg and spoon race around your garden with your kids, you can make exercise fun in so many different ways. And what does it do for us? Well, as it says at the top there, it increases the neuroplasticity. It increases the moldable aspect of your brain. So the regular exercise promotes the growth and the survival of the neurons. So the neurons along the neural networks that I've talked about and the connections in your brain, as well as helping form new connections between them. As I said, generally, it takes 21 days to form a habit. Okay, so we can probably all relate to at some point, maybe not. I've certainly done it. When I do my running challenge every year, I run during that running challenge, but the rest of the year I'm a bit rubbish. So I form the habit, but then I break the habit. So whilst I'm doing that habit, I'm great, I'm fabulous, I'm on top of the world, I'm running every day, it's wonderful, and I'm doing all that. And it becomes a habit after those 21 days. And after 90 days, it becomes a lifestyle choice almost. It kind of gets molded in there as a subconscious aspect. So sometimes I get to the end of the 100 days and you can't stop me running. Last year, I think I ended up on 186 days before I took a break. So yes, it becomes habit. And these are the things we want to build into it. When we talk about habits, this is what we want to build into our everyday life as much as possible. But again, it only has to be small things. We're talking 10, 15 minutes to start with. We go back to COVID, there was the Joe Wicks videos. Like, so many people love those videos, and they were there doing those with the kids in the front room every day. It became a habit. It became fun and exciting. Those videos are still on YouTube. So, you know, maybe not necessarily before school, but after school, get them a bit lively if they're tired after doing all that learning. It's another good way of building it in. It also improves our memory and our learning. Okay, so exercise has been shown to enhance the memory and the learning by stimulating the release of growth factors that promote the growth of those new neurons. Okay, the hippocampus, as it mentions there, the hippocampus is like the computer of your brain. And loads of scientific studies, I won't go into them all now, show that through exercise and a number of other factors, increased learning almost. If you are learning on a regular basis, your hippocampus will naturally swell. And with that swelling, it will mean less fatigue from learning new things. It will mean less fatigue from exercise and just general day-to-day aspects. And obviously that is critical for the memory processing as well. Okay. So yeah, so that's how exercise, I think, works into that one best. Okay. Work it into the daily routine, even if it's something different. Okay. And we'll come on to a different aspect of how we can potentially work it in, or to keep it fresh, depending on whether you want the exercise to be the habit or whether you want a specific type of exercise to be the habit. Obviously, some of the pictures there, we got hiking, we got, depending where you live, we're down in Wales, so we've got some beautiful mountains. Definitely something I want to do. I keep saying every summer I want to take the kids out and go and climb some mountains, because you know what, I'm sure they'll be fascinated with it once they've stopped moaning and got to the top and seen the beautiful sights. Obviously the running, they're not necessarily keen on coming running with me, but they all love swimming. So, okay, let's go to a water park. Let's go to somewhere with slides. Yes, they can do a few slides, but we can also go through the wave machines and everything else. So whatever your strength is, work with it, okay? Because if it's a habit to you, it's more likely to be a habit to them as well. Okay. Yes, I'm checking the time as I go along, because I say I don't want to waffle. Okay, next one is reading. Okay, may sound simple. I'll talk through the sciencey bit first. Stimulates neuronal connections. So again, we're talking about the connections in our brain. Okay, reading engages various cognitive processes, including attention, memory, language processing, and comprehension. By actively reading, individuals utilize and strengthen existing connections, as well as form new connections in the brain. Okay, when our kids are at primary school, they pretty much read every day, right? Why do they read every day? You know, it enables them to keep their brain fresh, to keep them moving, to, as it says, process the different language, and then in turn allows them to absorb all this extra information. And one thing I'll mention while I'm here talking about it is, there's the saying, old dogs can't learn new tricks. I'm not saying any of us here are old dogs, okay? That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that is absolute rubbish, okay? Because 20 years ago, they thought the brain was fixed. And once you went past that certain phase of learning everything, you couldn't learn anything new. Anybody here right now, if you wanted to, could go off and do a degree and learn something new. all you need to do is end up in the habit of learning. Okay, get yourself into that process of reading information, taking more on. 18 months ago, when I started learning all this extra stuff about neuroplasticity and neurolinguistic programming, it was tough. I was exhausted just from doing 2 hours. And then I got to doing 5, 6 hours of learning on some days when I was off on my day job from a day job. And it became more of a pattern. I absorb more stuff. And every time I do a presentation like this, more and more information. Every time I have a conversation with somebody, more and more information comes out that I didn't even realize was there. And it's because I'm going through that constant daily reminder of reading. Now, we've got opportunities. We're, as single parents, or even if you're in a relationship now, as parents, we've got that opportunity to read to our children, okay? Or if they're of an age that they can read themselves, as I say, you know, they're secondary school and onwards, you know, let's encourage them to do so, okay? Books don't have to be, I know it's not always the coolest thing to do books, although I happen to know a certain somebody, Susanna here, runs the Frollo Community Book Club. If you want to get into reading and you want to weigh in, join her fabulous book club, I would say. There you go, a free plug for you there, Susanna. I believe they're even having a meeting tomorrow night. So therefore, if you haven't read for a while and you're thinking of reading and you want to be involved in a little bit of chit chat, because again, talking about these things is going to help you along as well. 10, 15 minutes a day. If you read 15 minutes a day over a month or 2 months, I don't know how quick the turnaround of the books are, you know, you might find that you're reading then half an hour a day at some point later on down that month as it becomes a habit again for you. And naturally with that, you're going to crave more reading. You're going to crave more information. And again, fabulous habit to get into the kids. Instead of on their phones right before bedtime, let's get them sitting down in bed reading for 15 minutes, half an hour. Okay? Because what's going to happen then, and I'm going to come on to it in a second, is when they go into the sleep cycle, guess what's going to happen? All that wonderful information and all that wonderful learning they've done throughout the day is going to absorb itself into their brain throughout the night, and it's going to make them super smarter overnight. There you go. Super smarter is, I'm not sure the correct English, as you can tell, but you get the idea. So yeah, reading, crucial. Doesn't have to, like the exercise, I'm not talking about doing these things for 2 hours a day. You know, building small little habit, 10, 15 minutes a day of these things dotted around your day, whether it's sitting, getting yourself up 15 minutes earlier in the morning to have a read whilst you're drinking your cup of coffee or your cup of tea in the morning before the kids are awake, or whether it's last thing when you've got a peace and quiet and the kids are in bed, rather than putting on, what one's on at the moment, Married at First Sight, which I still will be watching later. I've done my reading today, I promise. You know, whichever one it is, work it into that habit for you because it will massively help out. Next one, meditation. Probably didn't come up on most people's thought pattern when they thought, oh, what 5 things is he going to talk about for a healthy thing for the brain? Meditation, oh my goodness me. I couldn't fit it all on like 3 slides if I wanted to go through it. Doing 15 minutes of meditation every day. There's an article somewhere, and if anybody really wants to read it, let me know and I'll find the article for you and send you over the link. But it's proven, like, these studies were done by 9 different colleges in and around America and the UK and everywhere, and 9 different parts of the brain are stimulated if you get into the habit of doing meditation. So if you end up in your 21 days of habit and then it becomes a lifestyle choice to do some meditation every day, it will benefit your brain in ways you can't even imagine. Huge. And like, meditation is new for me. Like, even though I learned this 12 months ago, I've only really done meditation 3 months from now, and even now, hands up, totally honest with you, still not massively a habit for me. Need to get into it properly. I try to do it last thing before I go to bed, put it on the Google Hub or Alexa or whichever one you've got. If you type in there or shout out to it, play me 15 minutes of mindful meditation or calming meditation, boom, there you go. If not, yes, there you go. Wonderful one. I knew I'd written it down somewhere. Schoolofkindness.org. Susanna, I don't know, whilst I'm on here, whether you can search it up in the background there and pop a link into it, into the chat, whilst these lovely people are listening to me, because schoolofkindness.org, when I was looking on it and found it earlier, has free downloadable meditation for children. Okay, so you can make it fun, you can do it with your kids. It doesn't have to be last thing at night. If your kids are super stressed in the morning and not looking forward to school and are a bit bonkers, and we all have different children behaving bonkers at different points. We all know that from being part of this community, that we all have wonderful things going on. Is whatever way it works best for you, make it a part of your day, absolutely, and definitely get the kids into it early in their life, because I tell you what, they will benefit from it massively. As it says here, the one that I've just picked out, because I know we all go through, especially when we go through a breakup or whatever your personal circumstances are that have made you a single parent, emotions are definitely part of it. Okay, so enhanced emotional regulation. Whose children couldn't do with a bit more of that in their life? Who's, as an adult, I could do with more of it in my life? Okay, so many different factors affect our emotional regulation. I don't need to tell you that. You know that better than me, or as well as me. You know, just look at our everyday lives, the things that affect us, whether it's the arguments we have, the work that's annoying, the stress of this, the stress of that, whatever it is. Loads of things will trigger our emotional regulation, okay, leading to mood swings, anxiety, depression a lot of the time as well. Regular meditation practice, and again, we're talking 15 minutes, folks. Okay, we're not talking an hour each day, but I tell you what, I think once I fully get into it, I can imagine I'll be doing at least half an hour of it a day. But regular meditation practice has been shown to promote emotional regulation by strengthening the connections between the prefrontal cortex, there's a fancy one, which is basically all the executive control bit of it, and the amygdala, there you go, which is involved in the emotional processing. This enhanced, I'm going to use the brain molding aspect, this enhanced neuroplasticity helps individuals better manage their emotional responses. Okay, and meditation, I won't go into too much of the jargon about it, but it's very much about being there in the moment. That's why I quite like doing it before bed, is because after whatever stresses and strains of the day that you've gone through, if you just find yourself 15 minutes away from a phone, it's the last thing, you don't pick up your phone afterwards, last 15 minutes, you might even find you go to sleep before it finishes. Just lay there, sit there, listen to your meditation, and just bring yourself back into the moment and realize, you know what, it could have been worse. In here now, in this moment, I'm okay. I'm okay. My kids are okay. We can move forward from here. Okay, so massively key. And as I say, it's something that's new to me, but I can't recommend highly enough. And if you can get the kids involved with it, even better, because you know what, when they get to that exam phase, my eldest is doing GCSEs this year, and you know what, I won't use the word bully, but if I can encourage her to get into doing some meditation last thing before she goes to sleep, because she listens to music and watches stuff while she's learning, and I don't know how she does it, but it's because she's a kid, she can manage it at the moment. She won't be able to when she gets to our age and she has responsibilities. But if I can work some meditation into it, fabulous. That'll help her no end, I'm sure. There you go. And meditation very kindly and nicely leads into sleeping. Okay, I'm sure you don't need me to tell you how important sleep is. As I said, we've all been that new fresh parent at some point, doing the middle of the night feeds and the screaming babies, and they're not sleeping, and oh my goodness me, what do they want this time? Tearing what little hair I have out. But really simple. Everybody says 8 hours sleep. It is 8 hours sleep. Why is it 8 hours sleep, Carl? 8 hours sleep allows for 2 hours of what we call deep sleep. Now, what is deep sleep? Deep sleep is when we're not in our REM, okay, the rapid eye movement, okay? Basically, you're not in the dreaming phase, you're just completely gone, which normally, unfortunately, does involve snoring with me, I think. But why is that so important? Because we have to get those 2 hours for A, our brain to recover, B, to collect any new information that it's gone through that day, and then obviously, as it says below, and I'll go into a second, obviously reduces our stress then as well. 8 hours is tricky. I know, especially as a single parent, 8 hours is incredibly tricky with the amount of things we do. But again, there's something else we can do with that will help us along the way as well. Okay, so sleeping, the consolidation of learning. And as I said, during sleep, the brain consolidates all the new information and the memories that have been acquired during the day. Okay, memories, yes. We want to remember those. Unfortunately, memory is one of the things that was affected by my brain injury. So my short-term memory is a bit spotty sometimes. But by going through the processes, it gets better and better. The consolidation is essential for both your learning and your recovery. It helps to promote the integration of new knowledge into existing neural networks. So again, I talk about my daughter doing GCSEs this year. I know for a fact she goes to bed late. I know for a fact she struggles with stress around her exams, even just doing the mock ones last year. So for her, I'm going to have to encourage that sleep is going to be so crucial, because actually you might do all this extra studying and be up till 2 a.m. in the morning and then wake up at 7 or 6 to go to school. Great. You know, you think back to those university days. I didn't go to university myself, but I'm sure we can think of those examples. Go back to those university days and, you know, you're doing all those hours of studying, but actually the tiredness and the lack of proper sleep will make it harder to absorb all that information that you've just spent the time learning. Okay, so it is massively crucial in that process. Stress reduction, who couldn't do with a little bit less stress in our life? I think we can all relate that if we have a good night's sleep, we feel a lot less stressed. That's not rocket science. I don't even think that's science. That's just common sense that says that obviously it is vital for the brain. Adequate sleep promotes a healthier stress response as well. Because you know what? If we're tired, I don't know about anybody else, I tend to be a bit grumpy. And I tend to be a bit snappier, and I tend to not think about things as quickly and as easily and as well. So let's get ourselves that 8 hours sleep as best we can, and let's get our brain resting and then reduce our stress levels. And you know what? We'll cope with the next day a lot better. And how am I doing for time? Oh, I've waffled this bit really quick. Okay, good, because the last point I find kind of feeds into everything we've just talked about. It's the planning and goal setting. I'm going to take a sip because I've been waffling. There's a couple of comments. Hold on, let me just double check this. One's schoolofkindness.org. How do you manage these key habits already? What do you mean by that, Susanna, as we've got a couple of extra minutes?
No, it was just a point to the community to see if any of these habits, these 5 key ones, if they actually do anything currently. So do they do any meditation? Do they read? That kind of thing.
Aha, yes. Do let us know. Do drop it in there while I'm waffling away. Because it, and that's one thing that's wonderful about the community is we all learn from each other. We all learn from each other. Things that work for somebody won't necessarily work for everybody. But if we share enough ideas with everybody, guess what? You're going to find something that works for you, because we all learn in different ways. That's one thing I would say about the brain. Some of us learn by doing, some of us learn by listening, some of us learn by writing and watching, etc. So there's different ways of learning. I won't go into all the fancy names from all. But yeah, there's different ways of learning. So share what you do and everybody else can learn from it as well. But yeah, the last key habit that we're talking about here is planning and goal setting. Okay, planning and goal setting, I can't, as I said, it falls into all the previous things we talked about, because if you're planning your day, you've got time to do your 15 minutes of exercise. If you're planning your day, you've got your 15 minutes to do your reading and your 15 minutes at the end of the day to do your meditation, and then hopefully your 8 hours of wonderful sleep because you've planned your way through the day. And again, make it fun. Do it with the kids, because we all know that our children have a certain bedtime. Ideally, when do they ever go to bed at the time they're meant to go to bed? Or you know what, some of us are probably stricter than others, and some of us are probably in better control of it than others, and it depends on our personal circumstances some of the time. But ultimately, if we planned it in, if we made it a habit, a daily habit, to go to the family calendar, to go to checklists that maybe we've got for certain routines. Or like, I don't know, like, I know you do this, Susanna. We've had a conversation before with regards to like your online little payment things for your girls, and they get paid for chores that they do. So they know that if they go in there and do those, they will get more pocket money as a result of that. So there's that encouragement, a routine, a checklist that says, if I go and do this, then I get this, you know. And part of that planning, when it does come to, like with my eldest, as I say, like the GCSEs last Easter, I want to say Easter, last Easter, she was told she had to do half an hour of learning for each of her 10 subjects every day. So 5 hours of learning every day she had to do on all 10 subjects for her mock exams. And this year, I imagine it's going to be even worse. It's good that the school are encouraging them, but that's a lot. And obviously, as part of that, she's had to plan her way through her day to make sure that she fits that in. So then when it comes to family time, and I don't see my daughter all the time, but when they're then with me, it's like, I want to go out and have fun, but it's important she does their learning. Okay, let's plan that all together. Let's get together. Let's know when we're going to the water park, when we're going to the restaurant, when we're doing that. So today you've got time between 10 and 2 to do your school homework or your revision. And then between 4 and 6, before we go out in the evening for dinner, you've got another 2 hours to do your work. And as it says there, engaging in planning and goal setting exercises helps activate brain regions involved in learning and adaptation, such as, again, the hippocampus, the real, I can't emphasize it enough, it just runs everything. It just, if the hippocampus is going well, the rest of it's going well. Okay, through that neuroplasticity, the learning facilitates the formation of new connections. Okay, and as I say, each connection can become a new habit. Okay, and what I would say is this, and people go, oh yeah, I've gotten a really bad habit. I've gotten a really bad habit of letting my son stay up till 10:30 at night. Oh, it's going to be like that forever now because he's used to it. No. Okay, habits, just because we want to make certain positive things habits, doesn't mean they are fixed. It's the same as everything that we say, oh, you know, I got that from my parents. My parents did that throughout their life, and as a result, I'm exactly like that. Don't have to be. What I would say is, and I covered it again, you'll have to go back and watch the first presentation, but the thought cycle. I love my thought cycle. When you have a thought, any thought, the connection in your brain automatically tells you how you feel about that thought. It automatically tells you what you need to do in relation to that thought, and then it creates the result as a, you know, as a cycle of that, and then that goes back in. So let's use something that's not relating to planning a goal setting at all. Smoking, for example. Let's talk about a habit. My father smoked. It was a terrible habit. He said he could never give up. If I'd known what I know now, I would have said, you're full of rubbish. You just need to break your habit. How many days in a row does it take to break a habit? So I talked about my exercise one earlier. Go on, have a guess. As we've got a couple of minutes, have a guess in the chat. How many days in a row would it take to break a habit? Susanna goes for 14. 30. I might. It depends on the habit, Rachel. That's cheating.
Oh, Rachel, that's cheating.
Technically speaking, 21, Elle says, technically speaking, and this is going to blow your minds, people. Are you ready for this? 3 days. If you don't do something for 3 days in a row, then you can break a habit. So I talk about my exercise one. If I stopped running every day and didn't do 3 days in a row, I find it really a lot easier to not do the 4th day. Now, Rachel, you're kind of right, I would say. You're kind of right. It does depend on the habit. Absolutely. Because if you've been, and I'll go back to the smoking example with my dad, if you've been smoking for 30 years, even though you might not do it for 3 days, the temptation's still going to be there. The smell's still going to be in the house. The cigarettes are probably still going to be lying on the side. You know, there's going to be reminders in there. And the thing with breaking habits, even bad habits, is, as well as breaking good habits, like I was talking about my exercise, is once you do something enough times and becomes a habit, that positive cycle is very powerful and strong. So the more you do something positive, like the things we talked about today, the stronger that connection becomes, the harder it is to break. Equally, the negative cycle, very powerful, unfortunately, in the wrong way. You do something in a negative cycle and it reminds you of that daily and daily and daily and daily, you're going to be saying to yourself, no, I just need to do it. It doesn't matter whether I want to or don't want to, I've got to. And that's because your brain's telling you you've got to do it. Now, you can change that, but you can only change it a little bit at a time. You can't go from 100 to 0. So like when people were trying to quit smoking, you couldn't go from like cold turkey and then just expect to be able to do it. And if you did, you were very, very, very lucky. because your brain doesn't work that way. You'd have to change a little bit at a time, going from smoking to 20 to 15 a day, to smoking 10 a day, to smoking 5 a day, to smoking 2 a day, to smoking none a day and having a patch, to smoking none a day, having no patch. And then over a year, you might break the habit properly. So, but again, that falls into this category that we've got here, the planning and goal setting. So whether you want to create another good habit for yourselves, like the ones we talked about today, or whether you want to break a bad habit that's getting in the way of you doing any of these wonderful habits that are going to keep you a healthy brain, you need to plan your way through it. And you can't plan to go, I'm going to have a diet this year and I'm going to lose 16 stone. Well, it doesn't work like that. You know what? I'm just going to get rid of the junk in my cupboard tonight. That's step one. Because you know what? If there's no food for me here, the terrible stuff I eat late at night when the kids have gone to bed, and there's crisps and there's biscuits and there's sweets in the cupboard, guess what? I'm going to probably have something. You know what? Throw it out. Throw it out. That's step one. Okay. Step two is the money for that. You put in a pot. You put something fabulous on it. Holiday pot, Disney fund, or theme park fund, whatever you want for it. You put a little sign on it that says, "This is what I want. This is what I want with that junk food money." Then you've got another incentive to carry on doing it. Then obviously the cycle is that obviously after you break that habit a few days, it becomes a little bit easier, but you've got to keep going. You've got to put yourself in that scenario that says, I'm not going to go out to the cinema, because when I go to the cinema, I have popcorn and I have sweets and I have a big bucket drink. Okay, you know what? I'm going to just not go to the cinema for a few weeks. Okay, that's going to help you along, because then by that point, the habit is broken. You'll have better willpower on the positive side of the scale to then be able to put yourself in the right space. But the planning and goal setting, like things with regards to the kids, what will work well for getting the kids' brain working in the planning sense? Some really good examples of it. Board games. Okay. If they have to follow instructions for a game, that's going to work better for them. Okay. Baking. Who likes to bake with their kids? Baking, you have to have all the ingredients, you have to be prepared, you have to have them set out on the side. Then the kids have to follow instructions. And you go, yeah, my kids can't follow instructions. You know what? They do it every day at school. So why don't they do it for us at home? They can do it. They're just fibbing to us. They're just trying it on. Yeah, or they just want a more relaxed life when they're at home with us. So planning goal setting, as I say, that family calendar. Go and stand by it on a Monday morning or on a Sunday night and go, this is what the week looks like this week, kids. You know what? Mom or dad, whoever you are, we're busy. We're really busy on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday. Or like Susanna or myself, like, you know what, on Monday I've got a meeting, so you know what, you're gonna have to get yourselves to bed, and then we'll have a conversation in the morning, but I'll say goodnight early, you'll have your snack earlier, whatever it is. Build it into part of their pattern, because when they go through the school phase, it'll just become more of a natural habit for them to do it. And then obviously going off into adult life, it'll become again a habit that they follow through to university or colleges or jobs, whichever way down the road they go down. Okay, so that one I love more than anything, because as I say, it feeds into all the other habits. And whether we're breaking old ones or forming new good habits, it will work for you if you plan it a little bit at a time. Oh yeah, that's about right. That's about right. We've got questions, have we? Have we got any questions?
No, there's just a little bit more about kind of like thought-wise, really. So it's a bit like with the 5 key habits, where I put how or does anyone do any of those key habits? So meditation and morning walks have helped me so much on my journey of grief. Okay. That's one. And then another is I go through phases of regular meditation, but then I always seem to stop after several months. And then reading is a lifetime habit for me. There you go. There you go. Rachel, like the meditation, as I say, I can relate to it. I don't know what it is. As I say, the 21 days is a habit, but as I say, it only can take a few days to break that habit. Whereas once you get to the 90 days, it's a lifestyle choice. So it is almost putting yourself in that scenario that says this part of the day is my meditation time. I know it, the kids know it, whether the kids are with me or with the ex-partner, whatever your circumstances are. The kids know that between 8 and 8:15 is my meditation time. Or if, as you say, you keep it to yourself, you know that it's bedtime.
So your phone, you switch off before you go upstairs to bed or before you even enter your bedroom. Just switch your phone off, or whatever you do, put it onto silent to one side so that you don't touch it, because you know what, there's too many things distracting, like Carl's Instagram, TikTok and YouTube channel, because I love to hear that dude waffle. No, you don't. But you get the idea. There are too many distractions out there. It's too easy to access other information that's out there at the moment that will distract us from our everyday responsibilities and things that are going to do us a big favor of making ourselves a little bit healthier and a little bit braver. Meditation and morning walks on your journey of grief. I'm very sorry to hear about the grief. I can only guess. We won't go into it right now. But yeah, look, I mean, again, it's that habit. Okay, we all have to go through a process. Trauma, which is something I do work on as well. It's a tough process to go through, and a relationship breakup, or possibly the circumstances that you've gone through, is massively traumatic. Okay, and to get through that process, again, you have to put yourself in a healthy place to be able to do so. So doing your meditation and your morning walks, I am sure, has probably helped you massively so, and please keep that up. Doesn't matter whether it's snowing outside or sleeting or raining or whatever it is, still make it part of your process. Okay, there's always a different option. Should it be like, you know, gale force winds that are going to blow you off your feet, I'm sure that you can go up and down the stairs a few times, or around the garden, or whatever the circumstances are. We can always find something fun and a different way to get through that bit. But absolutely, yeah, if you can make healthy habits of these, share the healthy habits with other people as well. That, like, obviously, thank you for attending this. Other people you talk to, direct them to the video, or direct them to the website, the meditation one, the schoolofkindness.org one. Little free downloads on there for meditation to do with the kids, you know, because again, getting them grounded in that moment of understanding their emotions and their feelings of the school day and everything else that's going on with them, it is a crucial part of their growth, really, as well. Are there any other questions?
There are no other questions so far, but there's a really nice thank you. So thank you, Carl.
You're very, very welcome. As I say, I am in the Frollo community. I will admit I'm not in there on a daily basis at the moment, but you can probably find me in there somewhere. I think I put a post on this evening to say about this chat, so you can find me on there if you need to talk or ask any more questions. By all means, feel free to connect me and we can have that conversation. Or you can find me at any of these lists here on the screen as well.
Fabulous. Well, thank you to everybody for turning up this evening. Thanks ever so much to Carl for spending the time with us this evening and allowing us to have a little bit more thought process into 5 key habits for a healthy brain. So thank you ever so much. And I hope you all have a really lovely evening. Thank you all. Take care for now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.